What is time? We're gonna take a look at that. Welcome to Remind Us. My name is Aiden. It's good to be back. I know it's been 9 days since my last video. I'm starting to slack. I gotta pick it up again. Anyway, today I would like to cover the subject of time. And I'm not necessarily wanting to cover it in the sense of looking at the watch. What kind of time is that? But let's start the video there anyway. There's a amazing quote by I think it was Einstein, I'm not sure, but someone basically once said, "Time is so that not everything happens all at once." And I really like that because a lot about that makes sense. Like, what is time really? Is it keeping a schedule? Is it going to the school bus on time? Is it going to your job on time? Is it being stuck in traffic? How do we really measure time other than looking at a clock, looking at our watch? So, for many years, especially when I was younger, I never wore watches. Like when my parents would say, be home by time for dinner. Even then, I had no cell phone yet. I didn't have a wristwatch. And somehow I was always within 5 to 10 minutes of the specified time. And I realized I was actually still paying attention to the movement of the sun in the sky. You could almost say, whenever I was running around as a kid, depending on how long my shadow was on the ground, that's how I knew somewhat what time it was. And I was usually quite spot on. Like, and still to this day, I am not wearing a watch at all. So, yes, to me, time is a very odd thing. And I've looked into it quite a bit. Like, what is it that I find weird about time? I realize it is something that we, quote unquote, modern people fabricated to synchronize a whole planet so we can have things like, public transportation, the train running on time, or airplanes, you name it. All these things need to be synchronized to something. And if we're all going to have to look at the sun, we're all going to be off by half an hour no matter what. And yet, that is the only reason why I can ever really figure, yeah, this is why we have time to just synchronize our behavior towards society. And that is fine. Like, we all need some sort of measurement of time, a unit that we can all, relate to, that we can all synchronize with. But I also think time is, besides the time you see on the clock, also a concept in our mind. And many of you must have experienced this at one point or another. When you're having a really good day, time magically flies by. That's just an expression we all use. Or the opposite, when you're having a very crappy day, it seems like time almost stands still. Like the day lasts forever because it sucks. You're in no mood to do anything. You're just sitting around, and time seems to go incredibly slow. That is something I want to actually look at a little deeper here, because if you would ask Earth or any planet around or around the sun here, what time is it? Do you think you're gonna actually get a number as a response? No. Everything moves in cyclical movements, ironically, so that a clock, it goes in a circle. The short and the long hand, of course. But nothing seems to care what time it is, except us humans. I have a cat. She doesn't care what time she comes home. She does it whenever she feels like it. Middle of the night, middle of the day. If I'm there to open the door, she comes in. If not, she will just go about her day. What time is it, cat? Weren't you supposed to be home an hour ago? How does that even work? You don't do that, you know? So, the modern world we created, time has to exist, something we can all synchronize to. And yet, in our mind, it is something completely different. And on this channel, depression and anxiety, all these mental frames of mind, happiness, even love, they all seem to exist also in a time. And I say a time because it's not a set time. Like how much time goes by when you're in love, how much time goes by when your favorite pet died, how much time goes by when you're in school. So you see, I am 38 years old now, and I feel somehow more than 70 years have passed for me. Am I saying that as in my body feels like I'm 70, like I need a crutch to walk and I need to, make sure my food is all boiled to a mush or I can chew it? No, I'm talking about the amount of experiences that I have collected throughout my life. They feel like they have covered so much time that it just doesn't sound right that I've only been here 38 years. On the flip side, I don't think I have any memory of from the moment I'm born to like age 10, I think. I don't really have any memory in that area. I think the most memories that I have always happened in a moment of excitement, a moment of doing something new. So you see, if I have done it before, time automatically goes slower. If I have never done it before, a silly example maybe, skydiving, even driving a car, I still remember the moments where I learned to drive a car. The very first time I actually drove one, it was completely in an illegal way, essentially. Like I bought a car when I was 17. Like I was just dreaming of learning to drive a vehicle. I bought a car when I was 17 and I would just start driving it on a dead end street at night. And sure enough, one day a cop came into that street and, game over for me. But I still have that memory to this day. And then I had to go to court for all that. And yeah, I got a serious fine for that. Sure. I mean, I paid my due diligence. I knew I was doing something wrong, but, as a kid, I mean, I'm 17. As a young adult, I guess, you just don't look at the law the same way you do as an adult. You look at the world in a form of what can I experience here? What can I try? What can I enjoy? How can I better have more fun with myself, essentially, and other people too, of course. But you see, all these things that go into our memory, you should have a good look at what you remember best. And I'm not asking you tell me the exact date, month, and year that it happened. No, I'm just asking you whatever you remember. Is it the memory of something you have done dozens of times, or is it something that's unique, a standalone event that until then had never occurred to you in your life before? That car driving was an example that I used. When I was younger, same thing for hitting the clubs. I still remember the coloring, even the way the music sounded, the light show, the type of people that were there. I remember that all very well. And I think if I had to make a rough estimate, I think I went to the clubs. I wasn't a clubbing animal, but I went at least about 20 times. It's only that first time that really stuck to my memory. All the others seem to just have quietly faded into nothingness, essentially. I know it happened, but ask me who I went there with and stuff like that. I couldn't tell you. I just don't remember that stuff. So other things that are similar is the first time I bought my own house, the first time I bought my own legal car, like stuff like that. Like school, the same thing. You go to school for what, like almost 15 years? I don't remember very much at school unless in school something happened that was unique to all the other school days. So I'm not going to cover too much about my school days because they were pretty, simple. Sure, I was the teacher's pet and I always did my homework perfect to the best of my ability. But all that aside, I have actually very little memory of being in school itself, except for some random moments here and there in the class where a subject was covered or I came up with an idea that was so mind blowing at the time, I guess, to me or the teacher, whomever, that it still sticks to this day. So, um, not to get sexual, but the first time you had a sexual relation, you probably can still recall that. I'm not asking if it was a good or a bad experience. I'm just asking you, do you recall that? And if you've been with several partners throughout your life, my next question would be, can you recall the next 3, 4, or 5 relations in enough detail to make a story out of it? So you see, I cannot necessarily. I mean, sure, if I sat down and I think about it in some depth, I would that information would probably come back to me, because after all, each new relation is a new person. So is the relation itself a new experience? No, but the person is. So you have to kind of relearn, what is the behavior of this person? How does this person talk? Like, you have to find the ways to get along with each other. But my point stays: examine your past and see which memories are the easiest to remember. And you'll find, oh, I have one more really good example. For all those of us who are old enough to remember 9/11, when the Twin Towers came down, almost everybody that was alive at that point knows exactly where they were when they heard the news. For me, I was in school in Belgium. We had no TVs in the classroom, but for some reason, when this happened, we were all taken to the teachers' lounge, and they would have the TV loud with subtitles and all that. And yeah, that is where I found out I was in school. So you see, if enough of your awareness, enough of your consciousness is involved in time, it creates a very strong, memorable experience, I should say. So if that is all true, then what is time itself? That's the question. I can no longer see time as a chronological series of events where one happens after the others. That is how we live our life here on earth, that I will give it that much. But I have so many memories now. I think if I wanted to write a book about my life, just a random thought right now. If I wanted to write a book about my life now, I would struggle much trying to put everything in the correct order, because mentally, I think my mind stopped aging somewhere around age 20. And it seems like everything that great and bad that happened to me is all very close to that age 20. And yet I know the first time I drove that illegal car, I was 17. I know that because in Belgium, the legal age is 18. So you see, I know that memory happened before I was 18, but only shortly before, because of that legal fact. That is why I can place that memory in the correct place. I'll give you another example. I worked in a bakery when I was younger on the weekends to, make my own pocket money so I could buy my first Game Boy, my comic books, my vinyl music. As a kid, you got to start making money somewhere. And honestly, I think that is something good from the past that my parents pushed on me, and push is a strong word, of course. They encouraged it, that I made my own money. I'll put it that way, because at home nothing was given to me for free. I had to work for everything. Whether it's when I was very young, it was mowing my lawn, washing my parents' car, stuff, little chores like that, or do the laundry. Little chores like that would provide me with pocket money, but it was never given for free. I had to do something for it, and I think that was good for my parents to do. At the times, I hated it because there were things that I wanted, like, oh my god, the new comic book came out, I want it now. Got no money. Mom, give me money. No, do something for it first. I learned the value of time spent versus what you do with that spent time. Like the reward for that time spent, of course, money now. You have to put some time in to get money in time and purchase the things you really want. It was actually, I'm sidetracking a little bit, but I want to say this really quick. It was a very difficult for me when I came to America that here the approach seems very opposite. You buy what you want first on a credit card and you worry about how you're going to afford that later. It's I had a very difficult, and honestly I never picked that up. I didn't have a credit card until I think about 8 months ago. I finally got one right before winter started for one reason only. It's one of those cash back cards. Like you get 1% back on whatever and 2% on groceries and gas. I'm like, okay, well, I use my card mostly for this thing, so let me just get it. But I pay it off weekly, so that card is never going to charge me interest. So in my mind, it's somewhat of a free money scheme. I'm only talking pennies, of course. But you see, anyway, back to time. When you are having a really good day, I already said this in the video. I know time seems to it it's over in the blink of an eye. Like how is that even possible? So what can we do maybe to better appreciate time? I don't know. Like I said, I'm 38 and I feel like I could then condense all my stories in seemingly what happened in 1 year, and that's just not true. I am 38 years old. But here's the funny thing: a lot of that time is spent in school first, and then your professional life, whatever job you choose to do. You are going to spend like 40, 50 years here. And guess what? Not much memory will be created in this time frame. What you remember the most will happen because it is a little bit above your norm. The norm is work. Let's say you're going out with friends and after work or on the weekend and you go skydiving for the first time. That might be a really good memory, but you think your job is linked to that memory. Like, what did you do on your job the day before you went skydiving, for example? You see, there seemed to be this gray noise, which is your school days, your job days, and only when something spikes over that gray noise, it becomes memorable. I found that really fascinating, to say the least. So it's not that we can really do something with that concept. It's just something interesting to observe, because many of us, we feel like we're struggling with something. And I took a lot of time for myself to figure out what it is I struggle with. And I think when I read the book The Power of Now by Eckhart Tolle, I read that years ago, but something definitely changed about the way I saw the world. See, Eckhart Tolle, he says everything is always now. And that was weird to me, because when I'm saying, well, no, yesterday isn't now. Yesterday was yesterday. That was the day before today. Tomorrow isn't now either. That is the day that comes after today. The reason he says everything is now, including your birth 10 years ago, 5 years ago, 5 years in the future, he says everything is now, and he is actually right in what he says, is because if time is chronological, like yesterday was yesterday, then now cannot exist yesterday. It now cannot exist tomorrow. What he is saying is, when you were in yesterday, at that time, the time was now. Now is definitely now. But he says tomorrow will be now. So why is that even significant? Because our mind, and I cannot think of any other creature that does this like humans do. They do it to some extent. We are capable of thinking in past term, present term, and future terms. But with that comes a lot of problems, apparently. Anxiety and depression are both linked incredibly closely, tightly knit with your ability to process time. And I'm not talking about chronological time on your wristwatch or your cell phone clock. I really mean your mental idea of time, how you handle your psyche when you're thinking. That seems to be where we struggle the most. And I'll tell you why I said animals don't do that like humans. There is plenty of animals that hibernate through the winter where they won't move at all. They won't even come out to eat. That's the concept of time they have. That's the only thing they're concerned with. But that is a survival mechanism. Like the squirrels, for example, I have some running around in my area. They start burying nuts before summer is even over. They know a time of hibernation is coming where no food will be available. They must work on that now. See, us humans, it's not even a survival mechanism to us anymore. We flat out call this stress. If you knew that for 4 months you were going to have no food available, you're going to be stressed out about that fact. And what are you going to do? You're going to store food in your house. But we don't need to do that anymore because now we live in a society where food is being shipped from all over the world. Even if that mechanism were to collapse somehow, we are now perfectly capable of freezing our food, like putting it in little ball jars or conservative cans. We don't have to worry about the stress of survival when it comes to food anymore. Like we've, as a species, advanced enough that we can provide for ourselves almost indefinitely. Of course, I'm not arguing about the quality of our food nowadays because that's a whole other topic. I'm just saying that could be a valid thing to consider when we're going to be talking about time as a mental construct related to stress, anxiety, depression, like, all these things. So if worrying about your food tomorrow is something you do constantly, that is a stress, that is an anxiety, because you are worried about not now, but tomorrow and the days after that. some some thinking in this area is okay. Like, if you have a dentist appointment tomorrow, clearly you can't just ignore that and go, oh, it happens when it happens. No, because you've made agreements with people. Yes, it sounds like you just spoke to the receptionist on the phone with your dentist, but you are speaking probably close to a dozen people here that are involved with the keeping of your promise, the keeping of your schedule, your appointment. How so? Well, you spoke to the receptionist. Your dentist has to be there. The assistant has to be there. Whoever does all your paperwork has to be there. All these people are counting on you to keep your appointment in time. So that is something that might happen tomorrow. But you see, if this is just a careless thing for you, like, oh, I'll get there when I get there, you're inconvening many people because of your inability to use time correctly, or your inability to be on time, I should say. But you see, if time is just a mental construct, why is it significant? Like, what should we be doing with that? Honestly, I learned to just live in the moment, and that is where I could only find peace. As soon as I started worrying about things that happened in my past, which is depression, or things that might come, there's a big word here, might happen. If I start worrying about what might happen, I'm gonna live in fear. That is another important factor here. Worrying about the future is going to put you in a state of fear. If you don't believe me, just turn on the news. On the news, it seems like you are hearing things that happened today. But is that really so? Every time I turn on the news, it sounds like someone is predicting, because this happened today and yesterday, this is going to be the outcome. We should all be very worried about that. So the news itself, you can see right there just by listening for a few minutes. Even, I'm not even asking you to go through a whole news sitting. It's just absurd. But they put us in a state of mind that is never now. It is never the present. A reason why I chose time as today's topic is because Reverend Sean Walker, he wants to cover PTSD and depression with me in the near future. And I thought I would cover time because to me, it seems like all these things are interlinked with time. So I almost want to say, if you can stop time, if you could stop time, you could essentially stop most of the mental issues that people are experiencing. And I'm not saying your issues are fake. I know they're all very real. I was stuck in these same states of mind myself for many years until I woke up and I asked the question, why? Why am I worried about yesterday? Why am I worried what I could have said or done, or whatever different? Why couldn't I do it this way and not that way? It's again a thing that we are humans are capable of, and I don't want to say we are abusing this mechanism that we have. What I would say is we have never been educated on how to use it correctly. As a matter of fact, I almost want to say the one thing we should learn is to let it just go. Know that you are only existing here and now. You are not existing yesterday and you are not existing tomorrow. That is what Eckhart Tolle is trying to explain to all of us. And I found it a little bit mind blowing because I struggled with his concept too at first. But in a nutshell, the only time that will ever matter is right now. What you do now will echo into eternity. That's a quote from the Gladiator movie, I know. But they are all quite correct. As long as you sit down and worry about what might come tomorrow, what might happen, what has happened yesterday, you are never present in the now and you are living in your mind, almost bypassing life itself. And that is why I thought I would cover this before we do a video on post-traumatic stress syndrome. I remember hearing that term when I was a kid. I still lived in Belgium, and the war in Iraq was pretty big at that time, where it was going on at that time, I should say. And that is where I started that is where I started hearing that term for the first time, PTSD. Essentially, a lot of war veterans, people that have fought in a war and then they came back home, they all struggle really badly with that. And again, I don't want to say to these people, it's all in your head. Is that true? Is it in their head? Yes, it is. But again, this is an ability that we have, and we are very unstudied about why do we have it? How do we use it? How can we correct it if we have a struggle? Because I find it we're really easy to send people to a therapist, a psychiatrist. Just talking to somebody every now and then might be a huge help for you. So is PTSD fake? Not at all. I'm well aware that living in your head seems as real, if not more real, than where you are sitting right now. So that is the whole idea of why I wanted to cover time, because yes, it's a chronological thing. Yes, we are all synchronizing to it, and yes, it makes the world run on time. But the time that you experience when you're just by yourself is something completely different. And I think it is important we look at that in great detail. Like I said earlier, go in your memory and see what you can recall from your childhood. Do you recall much about the gray noise, your school days, or your work days? Well, as an adult, I should say then. I'm sorry, I'm just looking around thinking, but I just recall another thing that happened for me is the day my daughter was born. That was something that I never looked forward to in my life. I never expected it. I never planned for it to have children. But the day my daughter was born is going to be one of those days that I am never going to forget. I even remember I was there during the live birth. It was a C-section still, but I was there. And I remember to this day saying out loud to the doctors, you forgot the manual. Give me the manual. It was my way of joking, of course. Like, I've never had a kid. I don't know what to do here. But you see, I think the months leading up to going through this pregnancy, I experienced a form of stress that was linked to just that. I never had kids. I never planned for kids. I had no idea what I was going to do. I mean, I knew without any doubt I wanted to be a loving father, of course, and do the best that I can for my daughter. But at the same time, it was a form of stress. You see, I was worried about something that wasn't happening now. I was worried about something that has yet to come. I think I should also maybe put the concept of hope in here. Hope is a double edged sword, if you ask me. It is literally something that can keep you going, and it could literally break you down to the smallest pieces where you no longer think about living at all, period. See, we always, if we're struggling with our life, we are hoping for a better future, of course. And that is fine. That is the average idea of hope. You are hoping for something better. But when you put your mind on a very specific thing, like I'm going to become a manager so I'll make more money, and once I get there, everything will be great. You see, now you have pinpointed your hope on one specific thing, and when the day comes you should be getting your promotion, what happens to many of us, this is something we've been looking out for months, often years. The day comes that you should get your promotion, and guess what? Oh, sorry, the company is low on money, or we still have plenty of managers that need to retire first. You're gonna have to wait a few more years. You see, now all your hope just suddenly got shattered, and now what? You're devastated. Now you're in depression. Like, God, what was I thinking? Why did I even want to be a manager in the first place? You see, again, this is our ability to plan back and forth in time, and we got to be very careful with that. I try to not plan in the future at all. Like, I try to keep my plans literally no more than a 24-hour time frame. Why? Because I don't know what's going to happen next week. I don't know what's going to happen next month. With the exception, and I gave you an example earlier, the dentist. When I make an appointment that I know is going to that other people have to synchronize up with me, those are plans. I will write them on my calendar. Like, my car needs inspected, it has to be there at a certain time. I have a dentist appointment, I need to be there at a certain time. But you see, I don't have to walk around all day being stressed out about something that's about to come. I just write it on my calendar and I let it be there. Whenever I look at my calendar, the time is always now. I wrote something on my calendar yesterday. When I was writing it on the calendar, that was now. That is the concept that Eckhart Tolle was trying to bring to you. And I realized that almost nothing at all anymore is worth thinking about in a destructive or constructive way. That's a dangerous statement, right? Not thinking in a constructive way is dangerous. I mean, thinking in a constructive way might be dangerous. I'm simply saying, if you learn to take the days a moment at a time, that's a quote, I guess, too. That's an expression, I should say. Take life one moment at a time. But I really feel that is the correct way to live. Like I said, we don't have to worry about our food supply anymore. We don't have to worry about having a warm house in the winter. These are all byproducts of our modern civilization. Like, our whole survival mechanism has become a survival instinct, I should say, is becoming a thing of the past. And what has happened is it freed up our mind. But the problem now became, because it's now freed up, we are now worrying about things our mind was never meant to worry about. That is why I keep saying it over and over in this video: worry about nothing, just live now. So when we cover depression in a future video, I want to make videos that are a little more interactive with another person. Reverend Sean Walker has been considering doing that with me, and I would love that, but I'm very new to all of that stuff. But the mission he and I have are very similar. We want to talk to people, we want to help people, so we do that in our own way each. Hi, Sabine. My girlfriend just walked into my house. Um So yes, that's why I wanted to cover the subject of time today on my own terms, and then we're looking for a way where we can be on a social platform like I'm using YouTube right now because that's what I've been using for 15 years. Just listening, only as of a few months ago did I finally, hit the nail and said I'm gonna make videos too. Finally, so I'm still a newbie when it comes to editing and putting multiple programs together to make it all work right. But yes, when me and Ref will talk and cover PTSD and depression, I think it's good that I get the concept of time already out because to me it seems the two are interlinked. Our inability to use our mind correctly or better, and I'm not saying if you're struggling with anxiety and depression you're using your mind incorrectly. You've never been told how to use it correctly. Neither have I. I'm not saying my way is correct either. What I am saying is I feel much, and I mean way, way much less troubled with the world, troubled with my past, and troubled with what might come in my future. Um, a friend of mine, whenever I bring up the concept of dying, she just completely loses it. She can't function or think at all anymore. The concept of death is incredibly debilitating. I'll use that word, debilitating. Like she completely, I don't know. It's like she's dying in the moment as she considers dying as something that happens in the future. That I mean, I'm not gonna lie. When I was younger, the concept of dying was very strange to me too. Like I said, my brother, he committed suicide when I was very young, and that was incredibly difficult for me at the time. Like until then, the thought of death was never even a concept to me. I couldn't comprehend something starts alive and that same life ends at some point. And even worse yet, the fact that it is completely unscheduled. I mean, unless you are going for assisted euthanization or something, I don't know. But I had never really thought about time until that happened. So, yes, when I finally realized time is an unknown, I could totally understand why we all struggle with that. We like facts, we like certainties, and this is one thing you will never get for certain. And yet, at the same time, it is the thing that is going to be the most certain in our lives. We're going to die. So live while you have the time. Don't wait for tomorrow to try that new thing. Don't worry about what you did yesterday and you could have done different. Let all these concepts go. They are things that happened in time. Yes, they happen to you. I keep saying everything happens for you. Big difference. But right now, you can do better. Right now, you can make a change. And if you try something new and you feel that it works for you, stick with it. Most of us, we already know what doesn't work for us. And guess what? We keep doing it. You gotta wonder why that is, right? I'm gonna argue it's habit. We do things wrong, and because we have no better way of doing it, let's just stick with the habit. It wasn't the worst thing, so let's keep doing things this way for now until a better idea comes along, right? So that's pretty much what I had on my mind for time. So I think I'm going to end the video here. I can't really think of something else that I wanted to cover about this now. So, um, yeah, it was good talking to you all, and I hope you all subscribe. I hope you like the videos, and please leave your comments. I would love to hear your thoughts and ideas on the things that I speak about because it's good to know I'm not the only one thinking about life in more than it was fine. I'm fine. I like I like minds that are willing to at the very least observe but then also talk about it. One of the best ways that we can all evolve and move forward and become better is to talk. It's easy to notice that when you get on Facebook and you see the people's feed from throughout the day, the weeks, and the months, How often do you see a Facebook page where people tell you how bored they are with their life? It's rare because people always seem to post these, again, out of the gray zone things that have happened randomly. They might not post something for a whole week and suddenly, boom, wow, I went to Hershey Park, I had the most amazing time. And then the Facebook page is quiet for a whole week. Whoa, boom, we went to Knoebels, another great day. If you click on that Facebook, you're going to say, wow, their life is perfect. Nothing seems to ever be wrong there. In comparison, my life sucks to that. Why is that? What are these people doing in the gray zone where no memories are created? You see, we all have this zone where we just go to work every day, we come home and sleep. Nothing memorable happens there. But you know what? Although that is not a special time, if you struggle with your thoughts a lot, this is actually the perfect time when you come home after work, take a shower, eat your dinner, whatever, but spend some time in your head. Sounds crazy, right? Just listen to what you're thinking. I'm not saying actively think, just let your mind do what it always does. It'll just chatter in your head about random things from your past, things you should be worrying about for the future. Instead of reasoning with your mind, listen to it. And what I said, people posting all these great things on Facebook and you should feel bad because your life isn't that amazing. Actually forgot where I was going with that, but don't worry about that really. Nobody has perfect days every day of the week, of the month, of the year. And that gray zone, you never hear people speak about it, or very rarely. We only see, or we only share. Oh, that's where I was going. We only share with the world the great and amazing things that happened. So if people are already struggling with the depression, it's going to make it even worse because we're thinking these people have an amazing life, mine sucks in comparison. Here is why I'm arguing we should also be just as open about our problems. Because all of us want to live happier, all of us want to live better. If we're only going to focus on the good things that happen on Facebook or wherever, how can we, the ones that struggle with our feelings, with our thoughts, with the things that just happen to us, how can we find solutions? How is you going to Hershey Park? How is you going to Disneyland, wherever, helping a person in need? It isn't. I mean, believe me, I'm happy you're having a fantastic day. I would go to Disneyland too, probably, if someone offered it to me. But I want to help people here. So I'm going to have to be bringing up a lot of struggles that we deal with throughout our life. And that's fine because I've taken the time to look at my head, look at my thoughts, look at why they're in going on. And I promise you, there is a way to make them stop altogether and live in peace, live in the moment, and live in the now. There. I've said it all, I think. Please subscribe, please like, and please comment. I hope you all enjoy the rest of your day, and I will see you again in the next video.